Hey CSM, welcome. My name is Justin. I'm on the student team, and as you know, we're doing these conversations throughout this series, so thank you for joining us. I'm here with a couple of my friends. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Autumn. I'm a part of CSM Music Culture. I've been on some of the online captures for worship, and I am at the Glendale campus in the student room.
Hi, my name is Christian. I am a student worship leader, and I go to the Mesa campus.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Today we're talking about where God is. It's kind of where our series is going, and today we're going to talk about where God is in our anxiety, which is something I feel like a lot of us deal with. Some of us have been diagnosed with it. Some of us have it and not really sure what to do with it. So I thought it would be just important for us to kind of start this whole conversation off with sharing a little bit about what anxiety means to you. What is it? What is that word? When you hear that word, it might even trigger something. What does anxiety do to your life? What part does it play in your everyday life?
Well, I guess I could start. Anxiety it's kind of a hard thing for me to talk about because, like you said, it does trigger something. And well, I was diagnosed with anxiety when I was 14, generalized anxiety disorder. And it really, what it means to me is a loss of control. When you can't find out what you're going to do, when this fear kind of creeps up and you don't know what to do with it, the only thing left to do is feel like you're crushed and you're caved under and you can't really do anything about it. So that's what that means to me.
Yeah. I was also diagnosed with anxiety. It was like my junior year of high school, and I had never really had like a panic attack before. I had like anxiety attacks. I like cried because I was shaking and I didn't know why, but something happened and I just had this massive panic attack. And so we went to the doctor and they were like, yeah, you probably have anxiety, and I was medicated for it. But for me, it's like I don't necessarily feel like I'm caving under. I feel like all of my insides are like trying to escape and go all different directions, and my body physically shakes, and like even talking about it, I can talk about it and not feel anxious, but thinking about how I do feel is just completely lack of control, and like my mind is just a fuzzy, everything is bouncing everywhere and I have no idea what to do with any of it.
Yeah, all the things that we just explained are like such emotional, like hard things to even talk about. Like when I hear you talking about how you go through anxiety, I'm like, there's no way I could go through that. How do we even find God in moments like that? Because we follow God, we're Christians, and we believe that He created us in His image. So when we talk about things like we're experiencing, like, how do I find God in the middle of that?
Yeah, I think for me, for a long time, it was really hard to see where God was in that, especially when I was in high school and it had just started. And I was on the worship team as a student, and I felt like I had a good, solid relationship with the Lord, and I felt like I prayed for relief and I prayed for peace, and I just didn't get that. And I felt like there was nothing that could make me calm down when I was in those moments. And it got so bad to the point where my senior year, I was waking up in a cold sweat every morning before class, and I was throwing up from my anxiety every single day. And really, where I personally saw God in those moments, it was never like, oh, I pray and now I feel peace. And I think a lot of people tend to feel like that's what God does for anxiety, or that's what He should do. If you're really listening, God's just going to make you calm down. And I personally, that has never happened for me. And it really just came from people in my life that just happened to be in the right place at the right time and could like grab me and pull me away from a situation and like sit with me. Even if they just sat with me in silence and didn't really know the perfect way to do it, it was like God always sent the right person at the right time to do exactly what I needed. And for me, like that's like God showing Himself in the people around me.
What you said about people was really profound. I didn't think anything was wrong with me for a long time. Like you said, with the whole toxic masculinity kind of stuff, I thought I was just a sensitive kid. that I had way too much emotions. I cared way too much about things. I let them get to me too much. I just thought I was wrong. Whatever was wrong with me, I didn't know, but I was just wrong. And what brought me out of that was actually my brother, because we used to be on the worship team at another church together. And as I had those moments where I thought I was just being oversensitive, and I would go and hide away, not knowing I was actually having panic attacks. When I finally opened up, and I was a stuttering mess, he told me, dude, you're going through anxiety. And I was like, anxiety? What's that? What are you talking about? And as I started to research, as I started to do more, as I started therapy, I figured out this isn't exactly bad. This is something that can bring me closer to God, and something that I could use, that God could use to bring people closer to Him.
What are some of those as a student? Like, how are those people that are surrounding you, like whether it's friends that also have anxiety or friends that don't understand it, like how do you even work through that? How is God even showing up in moments like that?
I think it's also been something that helped, it's also been something that's detracted. Being somebody that is so, I would say I'm kind of the emotional center of my friend group. So I've always been the one to help them through their anxiety. I have anxious friends. I have friends who deal with mental health, and we talk about it together because that's what you do when you're friends. And I've gotten to that point where I don't want to shove my issues on them. I want to leave it because my anxiety will tell me if I say something, they're not going to want to be around me because they have other things that are going on. And so dealing with that on top of the anxiety I already feel is like realizing, okay, if they aren't there for me, if they don't want to talk about it, which a lot of the time they do, then there's God. There's always God. He's always my rock. He's always somebody who's going to sit with me and listen to what I have to go through, even if my friends don't want to, even if my friends make themselves too busy. And that's what's kept me, that's what I've had to learn over all of quarantine, actually, is it's okay to reach out to people, but simultaneously there's one that's never going to stop listening.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think just for me and my experience with anxiety, having kids, I start to sometimes realize how my anxiety affects others, and that sometimes causes more anxiety, and then more anxiety. It's this never-ending cycle. My kids see me at my worst moments, and I'm I don't know what to do. This is causing me more anxiety.
Well, what are some of your guys' coping methods? How do you calm yourself down after an attack?
Okay, I actually do have several.
You got excited to answer that one.
So I just kind of go through, and if I can catch myself kind of towards the beginning of an anxiety attack, then it helps me ground myself in this okay, 5 things. Look at 5 things and point them out. See 5 things. And I try to not do just the table or the floor, this couch. I try to think of something specific. So this button on the couch, just something specific, 5 things, and then you just go down the list of all your senses, and it's listen to 4 things, feel 3 things, and you just go down. And so that's one that has actually helped me if I can get it right in the beginning. But when I'm just generally feeling anxious and I'm not really in having an attack of any sort, I'm just generally these weeks have been a super stressful time, and I just never feel like I'm at peace. Something that ever since I went to CIY I've actually utilized is Selah, and not exactly in the same way that we have done it here or that I've heard it done, but I literally will go through those steps, and I take a very long time of just I'm going to sit. I have 500 things to do, and I'm going to open my hands even though all I want to do is curl into a ball. I'm going to sit, open my shoulders, open my hands, and I'm just going to wait and breathe. And I just make myself do that for at least 5 to 10 minutes, and it's usually longer than that because I realize oh wow, I actually needed to like stop thinking for a second.
I never really even like found coping mechanisms yet. It's really hard to say. It's giving me anxiety to say. But I remember, like, if I'm being honest, please don't hold this to me, but I remember being a young leader and like telling kids, like, when they were going through hard things, of like, well, if you just prayed a little bit more, or maybe you read the Bible more, like, have you ever heard that? I've heard that stuff before,
Yes.
and it drives me up a wall now. But like for me, even with coping mechanisms, like, I don't have any. I don't know what that looks like yet. I'm just now even still experiencing or noticing that I even have anxiety. And there's almost like this shame thing too when you want to open up, like feeling like, oh, I can't share this. Like, what are people going to think about it? Again, that's what I struggle with. Like this masculinity thing of like, you're a man. You're not supposed to experience this. Don't show your emotions. Don't tell people about your feelings. And like that has caused this like shame feeling for me when I want to tell like my wife, like, I'm struggling through this. It's almost like I can't, because I'm supposed to be some strong person in the household that can't experience these things. And that in return causes more, and I've felt more relief from being able to open up about it than I ever have before. Trying to break down. It doesn't mean that the shame thing goes away, but like trying to break that down. And like you said, like Jesus is like, hey, what you go through matters, and the people around you should care and not cast that shame on you.
For me, it's like, it's this shame of feeling selfish when like wanting to talk to somebody. It's like somebody will be like, oh, I'm sorry for like rambling about this, and I'll be like, no, it's okay, like you can come to me about this. I understand, I want to help you. But when I'm like, I need help, let me go talk to somebody, of my anxiety, the enemy, the internal critic, whatever you want to call it, is like, no, you say that, you are a terrible, horrible human being, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything.
Or what they're going through is worse than what you're going through.
You think you're so special, and it makes me feel so bad about myself, because like, okay, I'm gonna deal with it myself. You know, I can help people, I can serve, I can do all of that, but you know what? I'll deal with it. You know, I don't want people to step in, and that's where you were talking about the vulnerability. I can tell people like, hey, I'm going through a really bad time right now, I'm feeling really anxious, and then not expand on it, not like actually sit in how I'm feeling. I apologize for crying, it's really bad. Like, not allow myself to feel what I'm feeling. I'll just, file it away. Oh, I'm not feeling like it right now. I know I'm gonna feel like it later, but I'll deal with it when I get there. And it's almost like that's not gonna help. Sitting like here or sitting like this and not voicing how you're feeling, not telling people what you need, is like, it's the same thing as letting you sit there with a stab wound in your heart, and nobody wants that. That's painful.
Something that I wanted to ask both of you, because you kind of both touched on it a couple times, is like, growing up, how do you think you got to the mindset of I can't show my emotions, I can't be vulnerable because of like I need to be like the man of the house, or like whatever that is. Can you, like, I don't know if you can like pinpoint a moment of this is when I started to really notice, or if it's just like, oh, it's just grown and grown and grown, and how do you, going forward, how do you like get out of that?
Well, I think a lot of it is, or was, just noticing like a lot of people go through this, that it's not just me, especially being African American and being a guy. It's kind of shunned in my family to deal with mental illness, but when I see that a lot of my family deals with it despite that stigma, it's fine. I can share that. I can talk about it with other people, because it doesn't make me a bad person. It's not going to be a stain on my soul. It's something that God, that was unfortunately given to me by the sin in the world, but God's going to use it to not only heal myself, but heal other people. Let them know that they aren't alone in the struggle either, because isolation is a hard thing when you have anxiety.
I think for me, like, just I'm a big sports guy. I like watching sports. Is what me and my dad did growing up, and so it's like watching these people that I idolized or whatever. Like, these are my heroes, quarterback or whatever, and like never having an inside look to their life was like, well, they obviously don't experience with anything mental health, so I can't. My dad was like, tough guy kind of a thing, and so it was like, well, my dad obviously doesn't experience it, so I can't experience it. So that's kind of where that came from. And for me, it was just the way that broke down, or I started to change my ideas on that or outlook on that, is when my wife came into my life and just being able to experience that with her and talk through those. And like, we did a thing where it was like listing off the symptoms. I'm like, oh my gosh, why do I relate to so many of these symptoms? Maybe I do have anxiety. So yeah, that's kind of where it comes from. But thank you guys so much for this conversation. I think we can all be in agreement that like the anxiety hits people in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. So many people experience it, but it's something that God will still work through. God will still be in the middle of. We can push through that, and God surrounds us with people in community that are there to help us and get through that and talk about it. So CSM, thank you guys so much for joining us today for this conversation. We love you guys. We'll catch you guys next week.